AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Life doesn't pause when you're sick. Vaccines against respiratory illnesses can help protect you and give you more playtime with your best friend. Depending on age and health status, vaccinations for flu, COVID-19, RSV, or pneumococcal infection may be recommended. Vaccines can help keep you from having a rough time. Learn more at cveep.org/vaccines-protect. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and CVEEP, fighting infectious respiratory disease.
When anybody shows up late. So it's not really about Mary. And if I get really honest and zoom out a little further, it's not just when they show up late. It's when they cut me off in conversation or when they cut me off in traffic. It's the same kind of feeling. So what is that? What's underneath that anger and that upset? And if we start doing the work, it might, probably turn out to be something like, well, what I'm really feeling is I'm not feeling seen. I'm not feeling valued. I'm not feeling respected. I'm not feeling loved. And those feelings are a lot older than my lunches with Mary. So great, right? Now I have something to work on. Now I've got something that I can work on in healing myself so that anybody shows up late and I don't get upset by it. And it's not about the lateness. Like I can make a choice. You know what? I'm not going to have lunch with Mary anymore because she's always late.
Right.
That's a valid choice to make too. But if I'm going to use that opportunity for growth, that's how we use our relationships consciously.
Hi, welcome to Emotionally Unavailable. This is truly a show about me and my journey. When I started Emotionally Unavailable, I thought I was just learning how to be more vulnerable. But somewhere along the way, vulnerability became transformation. Emotional, spiritual, human. Every guest I've spoken with has been a mirror, a teacher, a reflection of something I was meant to see. These conversations aren't interviews, they're energy exchanges. I'm not here as an expert, I'm here as a student of life. And together, we're learning what it really means to open our hearts, to show up honestly, and to find connection in the spaces we once hid from. The journey back to ourselves starts here. Hi guys, happy Friday. Today's guest, I'm so sorry if I do not say this correctly, Christian De La Huerta is a transformational coach, award-winning author, and TEDx speaker with 30 years of experience guiding individuals and couples towards fulfilling relationships. He helps clients break free from internal barriers to love, fostering authentic connections through his unique approach that transcends conventional therapy. His latest book, Conscious Love, builds on his work, providing practical tools for deeper intimacy. His previous bestseller, Awakening of the Soul Power, praised by Gloria Estefan, garnered multiple prestigious awards. Christian empowers individuals to unlock their potential, creating lasting positive change in their lives and communities. Wow, we had a great time. He was different than I was expecting in a very good way. I guess I'll just say this a different way than I've been saying it. I have a lot of preconceived notions about men, okay? And oftentimes they are correct. And I am so happy when I'm pleasantly surprised by a man. And the first thing I took note of with Christian is that he leaned into the conversation, which I mean like with his body. He was in this conversation, very present, very loving, very kind, very open, very authentic, very willing to see me too. And it was like he was there for the same reason I was. And it was just amazing. I truly enjoyed this conversation so much. And I know you guys are going to get a lot out of it too. Let me see. I will be he mentions what the links are, but check the show notes because I will make sure I include the links to his website, Instagram, YouTube, and it does look like he's got other direct sites for his book and his mailing list. So I will make sure to include those links as well. This is not an episode you want to miss out on. For real, for real, for real. He was just a very, very genuine dude. And I'm just pleased to know that there are men in the world like him. I've actually had such a good run with the male guests lately, and I've had a good time. And this one for sure I know is going to translate to you guys. Like, you're going to feel the connection and just love him too. I just know it. I know it. So anyway, I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing well. And I hope that your Friday is absolutely fabulous, or whenever you hear this, I hope you're doing great. Please be patient with ads. But if you hate ads, go subscribe to the Patreon, because you will get ad-free episodes and you get my monthly workbook at a steep discount. Thank you so much. There is also a $3 option to subscribe to the show just to support me and the mission of what we're doing here. So that's it. I love you. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. Without further ado, here's me and Christian. Emotionally unavailable. All spazzy. Okay, so I don't know if you saw this on my profile, but we just jump right into this conversation whenever I post the episode, which won't be that long from now, because I've had, I think just from people signing up so far in advance, I've had a lot of no-shows in the last couple of months. So I'm only a week out from recording to posting. So just know that. But for this, we just kind of jump right in. Usually what I do is I relook at your profile right before we meet and just okay, what comes up for me that I want to start with. And I was really interested in hearing about your experience. My feeling from what you had said was you were a shy person, and that was something that you had to overcome. I'd like to start there.
Yeah. I can't even begin to tell you how shy I was as a teenager. I was okay one-on-one, but if you added a third human, clammed up. And yet I knew that I had to get over that. And so if I was going to fulfill my mission, I always had a really strong sense of purpose, a sense of mission. I was very clear about that from a young age. Translated that in different ways at different parts of my life. But I always knew that my work was to help people free themselves, to understand how the mind works, how to free ourselves from all the multiple ways that we limit ourselves and sabotage ourselves in our relationships. And so I actually signed up for a public speaking course, which I hated.
Yeah, I bet.
Because for 14 weeks, I'd had to get up and give 3 2-minute speeches. And that was on Thursday nights, I remember, even though it's been over 30 years ago. Come Monday, I was already dreading it. I was already oh my God, what am I going to talk about? And yet, you know what happened? Halfway through the course, from just doing it and doing it and do it again, it stopped being such a big deal. So even though I didn't have the language then that I have now to interpret what I did, it's I teach that now because it's as a way to move beyond fear and transcend fear and the self-imposed limitations, which is basically moving beyond our comfort zone. And doing whatever we need to do and take whatever steps we need to take to place ourselves temporarily in discomfort for the sake of growth. Because like I said, unfortunately, growth doesn't happen in the comfort zone.
I know, and I wish it did.
I wish it did. I wish it did.
Can we just have some sunshine and rainbows sometimes? And I'll tell you, I get the feeling it's because you are saying that you knew at a young age what your purpose was, or that you had the sense of purpose. And I did too, that you are someone who has, or did at least at some period in your life, and maybe I'm wrong, but just rapid trades, always going through something in order to get new information to now spread to others. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
think
bullshit.
I know. And I think it comes from a deep sense of integrity that is just not talk, right? This is what I teach is stuff that I have gone through myself that I know works. um,
Yes.
is not something that I picked up in a book. Of course, there's a lot of wisdom that you pick up along the way in books or
Yeah.
workshops, but nothing like the lived-in transformation
Yes.
that comes from walking your talk. And
Yes, and do you ever so I don't know, I mean, I haven't heard any like I haven't heard you give a talk or anything like that, but where I start to stumble sometimes is because I firmly believe I go through something, I share. I go through something, I mean, it's anything I'm going through, I know now it's always because 2 weeks from now I'm going to meet someone who needs the information I gained from going through that experience. But I will sometimes, and I think maybe this is a little bit of imposter syndrome, but I'm sometimes like trying to posture in this way that's like, okay, but I need to come across as like this is an educational seminar, so I need bullet points and whatever, even though like I know in my soul it's story. I have to share what I am experiencing and how I moved through that. But sometimes I it won't be till the very last minute that I'm about to give like a talk that I'm like, Melissa, why are you doing this? Just share from your heart, your story. Every time that I could start at any point over the last few years and give you a beautiful piece of information. But I get in my head sometimes where I'm like, oh, I need to structure it in a certain way. And do you ever like have to check in with yourself like that?
like, you mean like the second guessing?
Yeah.
It doesn't happen so much anymore. Um, I guess from having just done it so much, it becomes second nature.
Yeah.
Um, but so I think it's a both and, right? It's like you're right. I totally agree with you. The most powerfully transforming thing that we can do is share from our own experience and from personal stories, or stories that we picked up along from witnessing transformation in a client. So I think you're right. And like, say, we're delivering a 1 hour masterclass. There is a benefit in structuring it. It's like, so having a direction, where do you want to take people? What do you want people to take away from the experience? So I think it's a both and.
Yeah, and I'm probably just second, third, fourth guessing each time. I've only been doing this a couple of years. So it's still, and I learn new stuff so much that I'm never like, I, I guess it's just still some like an insecurity I'm working through. But it's good to hear that you know what I'm saying and that you've been able to work through that for yourself. So I can look forward to not second guessing myself all the time.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of it I think comes to that certainty comes from experience and preparation. So even though I've done this so many times now, over 35 years, I still make sure that I'm prepared. Like, I'll review my outline for what I want to cover in a certain class or in a certain workshop. There's some aspects of it that I don't need to review, that I've done it so much that I just don't need to review what I'm going to say anymore. But what I do in those cases is make sure that I'm present,
Yeah.
to make sure that I'm not sliding in last minute, or taking it for granted. Because one thing that I have learned that is that I don't take credit for the transformation that happens in my workshops, because I think the teachings on the breath do that.
Yeah.
But what I do take credit for and responsibility for is making sure that I'm fully present.
That's a beautiful point. I like that. Now I'm curious. So you said you've always had this sense of purpose, and I know what my story is. I've had mine since I was like 4. How did you become aware of this purpose?
I just, as far back as I remember, I knew. I said, I translated it in my mind in different ways. Like, as a kid, um, I thought I was going to be a priest. Um, and so, I went to an all boy Catholic school, so maybe that's no surprise. No, but I think that was there even before I went to the Catholic school. Like, I grew up in a very religious family. Um, and so maybe that was always a part of it. And I think part of it was a legitimate vocation. Like, in a way, even though I'm not ordained by any organization, I do play that priestly role, in the sense of helping people cut through the BS and
Yeah.
get back to a place of freedom and get back to to reconnect in a spiritual sense. So I do that. I just don't need to be translated as a priest like I thought I had to do. Then, my father was a psychiatrist, so I thought that I was going to get a PhD in psychology. So that was the next iteration of translating that.
Yeah.
Um, and then, I think there are schools now that weave in the spiritual more, psychology, and counseling and clinical psych programs. But at the time when I was going to school, they didn't. So
Mhm.
I felt, you know what, that's just leaving a whole huge aspect of the human experience out. So then, I didn't go for the PhD. And a big factor that was discovering breathwork. Like I remember I was on a track to get a PhD, and after my first session, experiencing breathwork, I jumped tracks. I never went for the PhD because it works
Yeah.
so fast and heals so profoundly. And not to put therapy down, like in traditional psychotherapy, in the right hands with the right practitioner with clear goals, it can be really supportive.
Mhm.
And we both know that you can sit on somebody's couch in somebody's office for years and decades because they come to me, and nothing happens. Like,
Mhm.
and the thing that the reason for that is, one thing is understanding. Like what happened to us when we were 5 or 10 or 15, and the effect that it had. But the challenge is that the trauma has been somaticized, so it
Yeah.
no longer lives in the head, it now lives in the body. So no amount of talking at it is really gonna clear it, and don't get me wrong, like, understanding certainly beats not understanding and being run by subconscious traumas that were never healed. Um, but what I found, the ideal combination is both, like having the understanding and having some kind of somatic practice like breath work that actually clears the trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's been a really big part of my own personal journey is I mean I realize I disconnected from my body in infancy because the trauma started very very early. And now I just picture myself as like a floating balloon that was attached by a string for so many years. So like 43 years
Wow.
and just learning how to come home to me and then make that a safe home. That's been such an experience. And of course, breathing is such a big part of it. And it's actually the part I struggle the most with. In some ways it's very innate and like uh if I'm in the middle of like a crisis, I can remember breathe, breathe, breathe. But I'm still discovering all the ways that I like inhibit myself. Like I find myself for my whole life I've kind of held my breath a lot. So I've been working on that and it's like at the gym it's not natural for me to inhale and exhale. I'm constantly holding my breath. So then I can't even count the reps cuz I'm focused on breathing. There's this whole thing, but I mean breath work is so vital. And my big, 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 big message lately has been like, we're not going to affect real change while we're just using therapy words because
Right.
it's been shown that doesn't work. And I'm trying to be an embodied therapist and teach others how to be that as well because that's where the real work begins. And then that makes me really unafraid to continue to see life's challenges for what they are and move through them and then share with others how I did that. But I love the way that you have explained this because you're right. Like each of those things that you thought you would be spending your life's work in, definitely like all kind of meant the same thing, I think. But it's funny how we can get those messages so early in life and then, they change and evolve as we change and evolve. I always like had this sense that I would be going through struggle, getting through struggle, share with others. That was like that. I always knew it was going to be my story that I used to help others. But I didn't always know what that was going to look like. Like I thought, okay, I think I for sure want to be a therapist. What kind of therapist do I want to be? Because I considered recreational therapy for a little bit.
Uh-huh.
And then I put therapy all the way off the table because I was like, I'm not in any place to be somebody's therapist. I knew I didn't want to phone it in. And if I had
Yeah.
no idea how to fix myself, I wasn't going to go pretend to be able to do that with someone else.
Exactly. And that's that integrity and authenticity that I was pointing to. You have that as well.
I do try. Thank you.
Mhm.
Um,
Mhm.
wow. So what now? What does your world look like now? What is the work that you're doing?
Well, I'm still doing introduction of breathwork. So I do private clients, I do groups, I do retreats, I do workshops, I do. For a while during the pandemic, I had to put a hold on all that kind of stuff and the live events because we couldn't, as much as we needed to, we couldn't be breathing in the same room together. So I, had a couple of private clients here and there. But one thing that I'm really grateful to the pandemic for is that I've known for years that I needed to create online programming. Because the retreats were amazing. So it's my favorite thing that I do. We get together and breathe together. It's a combination of what we're talking about, the cognitive understanding of why we do the things we do and how we free ourselves. How do we have relationships intentionally, consciously, so that they have a chance of working and succeeding? How do we step into our personal power? I work with women on women's empowerment specifically as well. Um,
Hmm.
but consistent to all of those, like the one common denominator were two. One is a breath work, because again, I've yet to come across anything that heals past trauma and suppressed emotions as quickly and as effectively. Um, and so then combine that with, so I have developed a year-long coaching program that's virtual. Um, and it sounds like a lot, stretching it out over a year, but it's by stretching it out, I get to deliver the teachings bite size, right? But what I've learned with that model, twice a month we have coaching calls with me. And by stretching it out that way, each quarter has a different theme. And what I've discovered is that makes the transformation more sustainable. So, like in the weekend retreats are amazing. People, they are life changing,
Yeah.
and but then when people go back into their lives, if they don't have a support system, a system of accountability that's going to keep them doing what they said they want to do,
Mhm.
it's not hard. It's easy to get sucked back into the distractions and responsibilities of day to day living. Whereas by stretching it out over a teaching, that's the sustainable part, right? People are going through their stuff, the relationship stuff is coming up, they're having challenges come up at work, so we get to put the teachings into practice in real
Yeah.
time.
Yes, I love
Mhm.
that. So are you having them, you say each quarter has a theme. Are you having them focus on something during their breath work, like a shadow work? Are they working on expanding their container? Like what you don't have to give all your secrets away, but what does it involve?
Well, and it's interesting though, because the breath work we don't introduce I don't introduce until like halfway through the year, because I mean, for a
Oh,
couple of reasons. One of them is that I want to, the type of breath work that I do is really powerful and intense, and people have huge cathartic experiences, and sometimes
mhm.
they recover memories that were suppressed. So I want to make sure that I know who's in the group, in the room, and what they're dealing with. And so the first quarter we spend, it's mostly teaching. So every week they get an email with a reading assignment that takes, that's derived from my books. So the reading, you could do 15 minutes, but it all comes with certain practices that are designed to integrate the teaching so that they don't stay at the level of just good information.
Mhm.
There's tons of good information out there. The real transformation comes from living from those teachings, from embodying them, from putting them into practice. And so that's what those practices or those homework assignments are designed to do. And then we get together twice a month, coaching calls with me. And that's where, I deliver some more of the teachings, provide examples, and then we get into their day to day, right? Like, how are you? How is this, this came up in a relationship? Did you remember to practice, blah, blah, blah. So that's what makes it so effective, and that's why I'm noticing the transformation is so sustainable, and
Yeah.
people's lives are changing, so like irreversibly.
Yes.
They're having all sorts of miracles, for lack of another word, come up.
No, I love that word. Yeah.
Either new
I mean, it feels that
relationships.
way, especially if you like me, I was the person who was like, well, if I gave it the old college try, this just isn't getting better. Like, it doesn't seem to matter
Right,
what I
right.
do, you know?
Right, 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 right. And it just works. And so then once about halfway through the course of the first quarter, we focus on understanding the mind, the ego mind, and why we do the things we do. Why do we get stuck in certain patterns? Why do we give our power away? All that kind of stuff. The second quarter, we specialize. We focus on power, and we bring in a lot of teachings from my previous book, Awakening the Soul of Power. So how do we step into power in a different way? That's not about hierarchy or control or fear or force or domination without the need to put somebody down in order for us to feel powerful. Third quarter is relationships. So that's this last book that just came out, Conscious Love, transforming our relationship to relationships. So how do we approach a relationship intentionally? So if you are in relationship and you have the basic human needs for love and companionship and intimacy and sex and all that great stuff, family perhaps, then what? How do we use that container of the relationship to speed up our process of healing and evolution, which I think is ultimately what we're here for.
Right.
And then if you're not in relationship and would like to be, how do we identify and get clear about and then remove the obstacles that have us stuck in patterns of unfulfilling relationships? Sometimes we sabotage them even before the get go by falling for attracting people who are not a match, people who are not available. No, they're already with somebody else. They live on the other side of the country. So what's going on with that? What's really going on underneath the surface so that our relationships have a chance of actually working?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the last quarter's purpose, right? So you cleared a
Well,
lot of like your own personal stuff, your relationship to power, how do you now know how to approach relationships consciously, intentionally. Then what? Like, right? What are you going to do with this? It's
man,
that.
that's amazing. That's a very comprehensive program. You're right.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It
really
is
like.
life changing. It's life changing.
Yeah. Are
Yeah,
these, I'm guessing, the truths you've come to in your own life as well? Like you had to learn these things for yourself?
without a doubt, without a doubt. Like you, I only teach what I know works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you come to your spiritual understandings? Because mine all happened beginning with astrology. So, like, what? I'm always just like, how does everyone know this? And I didn't know it.
Well, for me, I was, in my 20s, I thought I was going to be a priest, and then I realized in my late teens that there wasn't enough room for me in that religion. So then in like many of us, I threw the baby out with the baptismal water. My 20s, I devoted mostly to my professional growth, my personal growth. And then I started to realize, wait a minute, there's got to be more to life. I had a very enviable life, successful at work and socially sought after. But as I started to approach that 30, that marker, is like, oh, there has to be more than life. So then I started looking again. I turned eastward. I started studying, Hinduism and Buddhism and the perennial philosophy that's found in so many different spiritual practices and religions. And then I discovered breathwork, and that's what ultimately changed my life. I was in an ashram in a spiritual community, small, for about 5 years, and that's where a
Wow.
lot of my understanding and actual experience of transformation came from. Where I put a lot of those concepts into practice. And then I got to the point that relationship, the guru disciple relationship, that intrinsically hierarchical relationship, began to interfere with my own growth and my own
Yeah.
development, so that I knew that it was time to move on then.
That is something that I've had to be very careful with. I'm very quick to believe that somebody external of me has more
Yes.
answers than I do.
Yes,
And
yes.
so I have to be really intentional to pause and say, they don't know more than you do. Like, just, if it's feeling way off from what my truth feels like, I know I don't have to listen to everyone just because they're saying, well, because I also have the tendency to believe I'm right. I mean, I will admit that. Like I'm the one with the way, the truth, and the light, whatever. And I have to get over that a lot. Like I'm like, girl, move on. But at the same time, they are clearly in that space too, where they believe they have all the answers, and I don't have to believe that about them either. I keep
Mm,
my ego in check for sure,
yeah,
but I have to remember that I'm encountering some people who aren't doing that and that they truly
yeah,
believe I
yeah.
need to listen to them. That's their belief. And some people instinctively I'll be like, "Oh, that was yeah, I needed to hear that." And then other people, I have to remember that just because they've had this information longer or look smarter or whatever doesn't mean
Yeah,
I have to listen.
exactly. And I, that's what I look for in a credible teacher for me is humility. That
Mhm.
that is the most important quality that I look for. Um, because otherwise it's the egos run amok and they're not practicing what they teach. At least that's the way that I live. So becoming aware of what the ego mind is and how it works, to me, that's why I spent the whole first quarter on that. It is so critical to understanding that. And if we want to be free, there's no way around it. And I'm not dogmatic about many things, but that's one of the ones that, there's a couple of things that I'm dogmatic about it. And maybe not dogmatic, as if you show me a different way, I'm happy to consider it.
Right, right.
But one of them is going within and understanding why we do the things we do. I don't see a way around that if you want to be free. Another one is forgiveness, right? If you want to be free, you've got to forgive. Because otherwise, if we're holding whatever somebody or over the fire for what they did or didn't do, it's like our hand is also getting burnt. So, I mean, we've been told this forgiveness is for us, and it's true. I
Yeah.
don't see a way around that one either. And then the third one is tearing up the victim card, the
Oh, Lord, I know it.
popping free from the poor me, woe is me. And
But it's tricky because if you're anything like me, I didn't consciously, those weren't the words I was using. I was using words like nobody shows up for me
right,
or nobody
right,
loves me the way I love them. Like it
right.
felt very real. It felt very real. And when I finally realized, A, I'm the center of all the conflict in my life, and B, I'm making the victimhood here. Nobody else is, just me. It was almost embarrassing because I was like,
Yeah,
how blind could I have been? What?
yeah, yeah. But you know what? In 35 years of doing this work, that is what people struggle with the most. So it is tricky. It's very insidious, and it's hard to see. We have blind spots. That's the nature of blind spot.
So many.
Yes, and that's the beauty of doing a relationship consciously, right? Because we're not gonna
Yes.
see it in us, but because of the nature of projection, we put it over there. So if you wanna do a relationship consciously, here's a quick takeaway. If it's a safe bet, if it's there, it's here.
Mhm.
And the more whatever they do gets us and gets our goat, the clearer that it's also here.
Yeah. And I hate that.
I
See,
hate that,
okay, so I
but it's
heard
the
that
way
as
it
a
works.
concept, but I hadn't internalized it yet. Like I hadn't felt it as truth yet, but I believed it, right? So I started like testing it. Like, okay, so if I hate that in you, what? And I'm like, well, but I don't do that. Damn it, I do that.
Yeah,
Like it was such a revelation when I finally saw. And that was how I like really came to my victim consciousness was like, I do that too. And
exactly.
that's the only reason I'm noticing it in someone else. So then I started like, okay, one of my big struggles in life is very tender in the way that I receive communication from somebody who speaks very bluntly or directly. And actually, this is something I've been examining recently because it doesn't hurt me the way it used to. As long as I know they have good intentions and this is just how they talk, that's fine. But if they say something that gets to me a little bit, then I really struggle. And I was like, what's cute about that is I'm pretty blunt in my communication too. So, like,
Yeah,
I think there was some shame in that because it was a part of this fire that I was spending so many years trying to extinguish because I didn't understand that my fire wasn't the reason I was so reactive. My trauma
Yes.
was, and
Yes.
that I
Yes.
can
Yes.
still have this really fun, loud, outgoing personality and still be kind whenever I'm communicating as much as
Yeah.
possible. I mean, I'm not perfect at it for sure, but it's better every day where I'm
Yeah,
not just, well,
beautiful.
I'm not a psycho with my family anymore. And I'm not like a psycho out in public. Like if, I mean, I usually was fawning or freezing with other people, but like with my close friends, even if they said just the wrong thing, I was very snappy. It would just come out as fast as it could.
Yeah, yeah.
And then all the shame that I carried over it. So, yeah, that's something I've really had to work on.
Well, it's beautiful, and what a beautiful example of that. Here's a more subtle one, because this stuff can be really, really subtle and hard to see. So a few years ago, like probably more like 15 years ago now, um, I was dating somebody. I had just started. I had just ended like a real intense relationship, and so this was. I knew it wasn't really relationship material, but sex was
Mhm.
great. I guess
You
that was
did you
the.
did what we do. Yep. Mhm.
It was great in that sense, and suddenly disappeared. Like, you know, I called him at work, not working there anymore. It's like, what's going on? No text, no message, uh, nothing. Right. But I didn't get it. I was focused over there. Like, what's going on over there? So I didn't get it. So I had to subconsciously, of course, because we don't get up in the morning and decide to create this drama in our lives. So I was working with um, somebody in publishing, I think it was, and she was great. She was great about showing up on time, like within 24 hours, she'd get back to me. And suddenly, a week goes by, and I haven't heard from her. Now that got my attention. Like two people, different walks of life, completely unrelated, kind of doing the same thing, right? But because these are blind spots, I had to get clear first. What are they doing, right? All right. So what are they doing? They're not showing up, literally. They're not
Wow.
doing what they said they would do. They're not keeping their agreements. So therefore they're out of integrity, right? Really easy to see over there. Crap, I have to do that work again. How am I doing that? Because I really do believe that if it's there, it's here.
Yeah.
And so it took me a few days because I was going through like doing an inventory of relationships. Am I showing up? Yeah. Am I keeping my word? Yeah. Am I keeping my agreements? Yeah. Am I doing what I said I would do? Yes. And then it hit me in relationship to my writing. Like, how many times had I said to myself, nobody else knew about this. This is just an agreement with me in that particular area of my life. And did I keep that agreement to finish that chapter by such and such a date? No. I was traveling, I was doing other workshops, I was doing
Wow.
good stuff, but in that particular area, I was out of integrity. I wasn't showing up for my writing. I wasn't doing what I said I was going to do in relationship to myself, in relationship to that area. And so, wow, same thing, right? I was doing the same thing, but in a different way. It can be that subtle. And here's the magic about how this stuff works. Within an hour of me having that insight and making the choice to make that correction, because I don't have to write, right? There's nobody forcing me to write. I could renegotiate the deadline with myself, but I wasn't doing any of that. And so within an hour of me having that insight, they both called. So no longer did I need to create drama in my life in order to make it be pointed in that direction. Or make a choice, dude, right? If you're gonna do it, do it. You don't have to do it, but if you're gonna do it, or at least bring some consciousness to it and renegotiate the deadline with yourself.
Oh, instead of just dismissing it
I know.
completely.
I know.
Oh, wow, that is a beautiful example. And I love that because then I always need a few different little ways to look at something so that I can, you know, uncover some of these blind spots because I know they're still there. I'm constantly trying to figure out why I do what I do. Um, that's kind of insane to me. Like, wow,
I
within an
know.
hour. And that's what I love about this work. Like, it doesn't take long to make shifts. Once the thing happens, it happens and you understand, and then you just take that next step, and it's so beautiful.
Exactly. And
Wow.
that's how we free ourselves, right? Otherwise we're being all that subconscious stuff is getting in the way of our relationships and creating drama and wreaking havoc in our lives and in
Yeah.
our relationships. So yes, it's hard work. I'm not going to say it's easy.
It's
It,
very
it
hard, yeah.
it takes, courage to look inside and ask the hard questions. And why do I do the things I do? And why does this stuff trigger me? Where maybe it doesn't trigger you. And why do I get
Right.
stuck in these patterns that sometimes it feels like the same old boring movie, only with a different actor, a different co-lead, but the same kind of crap, same kind of argument, same kind of stuff coming up in a relationship. At some point, like you were saying, we have to come to the realization that there's one common denominator in every one of those arguments and every one of those relationships, and it's right here.
Literally, those were the words I said to myself the first day that I even like halfway realized it. I was like, well, if we were to look at all of these conflicts that I have going on right now, I'm the common denominator, and that can't mean nothing. It's got to mean something. So let me start there. Okay, I want to touch on forgiveness
Yeah.
because for some reason it triggered me a little bit, even though I believe the same thing. So I must be in a phase where I'm needing to forgive something. But um this is where I personally I'm not great at this yet in terms of the big stuff. I don't take most things personally anymore. I really don't. And if I do, I recognize, oh, fear or shame has been triggered, figured out, move through it. But there are people like with my parents, so both of them died before 40 from drug overdose and complications from alcohol and drug abuse. And then my grandma was like primary caregiver for most of my childhood, and she just, had her own shit, lots of narcissistic traits, just a very difficult person to be raised by in conjunction with all this other trauma. But through this, I really have come to this like full feeling of peace with those relationships. Like, in fact, I used to be so angry. Like, when I first started this show, I had just kind of gotten really comfortable with talking shit about her as a caregiver because I had pretty much come to peace with my parents. But then as I've like grown and evolved over the last couple, well, I guess I think I've had the show 18, 19 months. Um, I finally got this moment of clarity and peace about the relationship with my grandma. So it's hard now to be like, "Oh, she was awful." Like I feel guilty a little bit every time I say it, but it was true and she was. So, but with all of them, I feel total peace with those relationships. There are still a couple of people though that I don't feel that peace about. But like I was talking to my 23-year-old about one of them one time, and in that conversation, I had some clarity and mostly felt like, yeah, I do kind of feel sorry for them, and just saw them as a human, experienced their humanity, whatever. But I can't imagine still ever speaking to them again.
Right.
So, where is that on the spectrum of forgiveness, in your opinion?
No, I love that question because forgiveness doesn't mean that we have to go out and have lunch, brunch with them every Sunday. We can make clear choices and have healthy boundaries. And if some relationship isn't working for us, isn't serving us, um, isn't, or if it even begins to go into the negative spectrum of causing harm, then by all means, you can forgive and say something to the effect of have a wonderful life, not just close to me. So here's a way that I look at forgiveness that makes it doable. Because sometimes we have to forgive like what feels unforgivable, stuff that should have never happened, and tragically, human beings do stuff to each other that is not great. Um, and yet, like I said before, I don't see a way around forgiveness if we want to be free. So here's one way that makes it doable: forgive. Two syllables, turn them around. Give for. And so what we're giving for is what we're giving to the other person or persons or to ourselves, which is sometimes the more difficult and more challenging thing to do, is the room to be human, to be less than perfect, to make a mess of things, right? To fall short of the mark. The ego mind is very self-righteous. It's like, I would never do that. I would never say that to anybody else. I would never do that. And it's probably true that we would never do that. But in having that self-righteous stance, we're causing separation. Right? We're standing in separation, and that makes forgiveness really impossible. So when we forgive, is we're saying, you know what? I can't imagine that I would ever do that or say that, but maybe, right? Just introduce the question mark. Maybe. If I had been raised by their parents and their grandparents before them, if I had been raised in that time, in that culture, in that environment, who knows what was going on in their history that I don't know about? Who knows what was going on in their brain biochemistry that I don't have no idea about? Maybe, possibly, I could have done the same. Can't imagine it, but maybe. And that's enough to get us off that self-righteous stance of I would
Yes.
never do that.
Mhm.
And it opens the door to forgiveness and compassion.
Yes, and the compassion is the big piece for me, and once I was able to extend it to myself, in most cases, I have found where I it would be possible for me to commit this act too. Like, I can see that. Where I'm struggling is sometimes I feel like I'm almost gaslighting myself because I'm thinking of like a few different people that I've chosen to not have contact with anymore. It's not the past stuff. I can even acknowledge in my role in that the past stuff.
Mhm.
It's the fact that I know that they haven't changed. And so where I gaslight myself is I'm like, yeah, but if you were a truly evolved human and you were around them, then you wouldn't take this stuff personally anyway. So, like, I feel shame, I guess, is the first time I'm able to say that part out loud. I didn't realize that, but around the fact that I don't want to be around these people because I know that they are going to do some things are hurtful to me that other people would be like, that's stupid that that bothers you. So it makes me feel like, okay, yeah, I should just get over it, but it's not stupid to me, you know?
No. And I think that's to me, I put that in the category of healthy boundaries. You know,
Well, me
if
too,
it
but then I tell myself, I must not be doing it right because some of the people I've chosen to not have in my life, it creates a little bit of controversy in my family to not be around them.
yeah,
And so I'm like, well, should I give it another shot? But I'm like, I know these people haven't changed. I know that it's going to be the same old thing. And I don't even want to entertain the types of conversations that are had in that circle. Like
yeah,
I don't that doesn't promote my peace here on earth to be around people who just are so blind.
yeah, and I put that in the realm of healthy boundaries, right?
Okay.
If it's not serving you, if it could potentially be causing harm, then no, there's no rule, there's no law that says you have to stay in relationship with them. And so I go by, you know, because you can always gauge by how long to stay in a particular relationship, romantic or not. Um, my measurement is growth happening. And if growth is happening, if they're willing to you know to work things out, to struggle, because sometimes this is a struggle, then okay, then I'm willing to do the work. But
Yeah.
if it's not, it's like no, I'm not willing to be in a situation that is not serving my soul, my highest good, my inner peace. And you know, if you had the conversation this way and that other way, and it's still doing the same old crap, it's like no, sorry. Like,
Yeah.
and you can do that with an open heart. It's like, I don't wish you any harm. I wish
Yes.
you happiness and a successful, beautiful life, just not in proximity to me.
Well, and I think that open heart is what's making me feel like maybe I maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm supposed to give more chances or whatever. It's I think that's maybe just an area where I'm still learning to trust myself and feel empowered in my decisions because for all of childhood you're forced to be in relationship with people that you don't trust or whatever.
Mhm.
So I think that's probably just an area I'm still growing in, but I do sometimes feel weird about it because I'm like, well, I guess to you, it doesn't make sense why that was so hurtful to me, but it was. And so I don't want to be around it anymore. But
Yeah.
I'm not mad. But the not mad is what makes me, like, consider any of this, because
Exactly.
whenever I was just pissed off all the time, that was different. Because it was like,
Exactly.
"No," whatever, but I'm not mad. I do send them off in peace and love and want nothing but greatness for them, but I'm not with me.
Yeah,
Not with
and to me,
me.
that's a valid choice to make.
Well,
Uh,
thank you, because
and
I
and
was
you and
feeling
then
weird.
there's another aspect of that, so it's kind of a both and. And Gandhi said that to give up on our adversary is an act of spiritual violence. So much less, a family member or a loved one. So making sure that we've given it our best and that we've tried to make it work, and but with that in place, it's like no. Uh, By all means, like to me, our most important job is fulfilling our human potential. And if a relationship is getting in the way of that, it's like keeping us stuck or stagnant or stuck in these unhealthy behavior patterns. And we've tried to talk about it this way and the other. Maybe we even went to therapy about it and it's still not working. No, no. There's no law that says you have to stay in that relationship.
Okay. Well, I just felt like I was a quitter or something, or like I'm just not enlightened enough. Was literally what I was just saying to myself a couple days ago. Like, well, but it wouldn't, if you could look at it from this way, it wouldn't even bother you. But I mean, I'm a human first, so
Yeah.
like it bothers me when you behave that way.
Yeah. I mean, and that's part of, right? It's not black and white because that's part of the ways in which doing relationships consciously helps
Mm-hmm.
us to grow and evolve. Because each one of those ouches, each one of those triggers is giving us information. So if we're
Yeah.
willing to do the work and ask the questions like, "Oh, why is that?" So say for example that you and I have lunch with our mutual friend Mary. Um, I have lunch with her on Wednesdays, and you have it on Thursdays, and Mary is inevitably late. And so there I am on Wednesdays, like I knew it. I knew I should have given her the wrong time so we'd show up at the same time. And she's so selfish and doesn't care about anybody but herself, right? All the stories that we tell ourselves. And then Mary
Mm-hmm.
shows up, and because we hate conflict and confrontation, we put on a fake smile, but then the sarcasm starts dripping out the side of our mouth.
This used to be me.
That resentment. Right? But so whereas it's like, "Oh, great, she's 20 minutes late. Let me answer that email. Let me return that phone call. Let me catch up on the news." Like there's so many ways that we could react or show up in response to Mary's lateness. So why is it triggering me? And so if I were going to do the work, like right, using all the opportunities in life for growth, it's like, all right, well, if I get really honest, it's not just when Mary shows up late that it gets me. It's when anybody shows up late. So it's not really about Mary. And if I get really honest and zoom out a little further, it's not just when they show up late. It's when they cut me off in conversation or where they cut me off in traffic. It's the same kind of feeling. So what is that? What's underneath that anger and that upset? And if we start doing the work, it might, probably turn out to be something like, well, what I'm really feeling is I'm not feeling seen. I'm not feeling valued. I'm not feeling respected. I'm not feeling loved. And those feelings are a lot older than my lunches with Mary. So great, right? Now I have something to
Mhm.
work on. Now I've got something that I can work on in healing myself so that anybody shows up late and I don't get upset by it. And it's not about the lateness. Like I can make a choice. You know what? I'm not going to have lunch with Mary anymore because she's always late.
Right.
That's a valid choice to make too. But if I'm going to use that opportunity for growth, um, that's how we use our relationships consciously.
Yeah, and I like that because I think the way that made me think of it too is I get to choose who I'm going to allow to trigger me
Right,
because I'm growing constantly and I don't have to be in relationship with people who aren't devoted to this work the way I am.
right.
But you hit the nail right on the head for me because all of that would have set me off before, and so much, I mean, like, even the conflicts that I have with the people that I'm thinking of, like, I recognize it was my betrayal wound that created so much of that conflict because I created an expectation around the relationship
Right.
and it wasn't met. And so I felt betrayed. But I lived my life in that wound from the time I woke up till the time I went to sleep. When I finally was able to recognize it, I truly don't take things that personally anymore. I mean, yes, it may trigger me and I may have to be like, oh, that's all that was, work through it, blah, blah, blah. But like, just in a general way, I really don't. I work very hard not to. I want to figure out why I'm feeling the way I'm feeling when I recognize I know that's not about me. So why am I making it about me? But that's the work. It's
Yeah.
tricky. It's so
Yeah.
tricky because just like the example you gave earlier, some of this stuff is so sneaky.
It is sneaky. And you know, that's why to me the ways to use the relationship as grist for the mill, right? And to make that assumption, if it's there, it's here.
Mhm.
So how do I do that? Right. So to help me see those blind spots that I normally wouldn't be able to see. But boy, can I see it over there. We're so good at that and finding each other's buttons and pushing them. But if we do it consciously in that way, then we get to grow. And so that anybody shows up late and nothing happens. Right? We get to make the choice about whether we want to continue having lunch with them or not, but our stuff doesn't get triggered.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not gonna ruin your entire day because somebody was late.
Right.
Yeah, because God knows I would have stayed real wrapped up in some spiral over something like that before for hours. Like, and then I just remember in third grade too, how they didn't value me either.
Right, right. And then we get stuck in those human dramas.
Oh, drama's a good word for it because that's all it was. But again, that was me with the floating head because I was so comfortable being up here fighting with someone in my head all the time. Someone that was the way I existed and just never living in the moment ever. Like
Mm,
presence has given me the best gift
yes.
to be out of my brain, in my body, in the world, living moment to moment instead of all that. What a
Beautiful.
what a beautiful life compared
Beautiful.
to what my former life was.
Right. And then there is no such thing as a failed relationship. Because as long as we're growing, it doesn't have to feel good all the time. There's going to be ups and downs in every relationship.
Yeah.
And to me, as long as growth is happening, okay, I'm willing to go through the challenging parts.
Yeah. I love that. Man, I've loved having you today. I'm so glad we could make this work.
Me too. Me
Okay,
too.
what if anything, because we touched you were very eloquent in your delivery, but if there's any final, kind of message you'd like to leave people with, I would love to give you the opportunity and also just, tell us where we can find you.
Well, I would say that our power is innate, and nobody can give it to us. Nobody can take it away. We're the only ones who can give it away, and that's a whole other conversation. The reasons for which we settle, and we settle for crumbs,
Mhm.
and that there is a way to transform our relationships, so that we're always growing and expanding and becoming more from them. And in terms of how to reach me, probably my website is the best way to do that, soulfulpower.com. SOULFUL power.com, and from there they can access my social media or email me or whatever.
Okay, well, and I'll make sure I include that in my show notes. I'm serious. I feel honored to have had this conversation with you and share some time with you.
Thank you so much, Marissa. I very much enjoyed our time together, and I thank you for having me, and I thank you for having the show, because I know that in your willingness to do that, lives are being changed. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to push stop if you'll just hang out for 1 sec. Emotionally unavailable. Hey, make sure you've given the show a 5-star rating on whatever platform you're listening to if you haven't already. And check out my website, empoweredwithmelisahepner.org, or my link tree on Instagram at melissa.hepner to check out my latest offers or workshops. All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
INDEPE and cut.